We are believers, we are teachers, we are all God's creatures. We are opening up the doors to our home. We cherish the moments when we see our children with faith burning strong, learning at their own paces, smiles on their glowing faces. We're caring for their education. Come and join our family at Eden Hope Academy.
Hello, welcome to Eden Hope Academy. We are in our last week. We're on week 24, and I'm so glad that you've been with us this year. And I can't wait to see you next year because we're going to be making robots, and we're going to be learning about finances, and we're going to have 3 weeks of spy school where we have to go through laser beams and we learn how to decode footprints and so many different things. It's going to be such a great year, so much fun. So I can't wait to see you back next year. Do you have your books ready? We are on our last week. I'm going to cry. We're on week 24. The last week is always my least favorite because it means I won't see you for a year. But let's go to week 24 and let's do it together. So the first one is no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide a way of escape that you may endure it. That's 1 Corinthians 10 through 13. So let's think about this. He says that even when we're so tempted by something that other people have before too, it's common. And God will always provide you a way of escape. And I want you to remember that when you're older. I really want you to memorize this verse because we need to remember that when we really want to do something, that we're really tempted to do something that's not godly, that God will provide us a way of escape. And we need to pray to him. We need to pray into it and say, God, please help me to find that way of escape. And so right here, I want you to draw that. Maybe something that you're tempted by now or in the future you could be tempted by. So talk to your mom about it. And then praying to God and getting to know him is like building muscles. So we've all seen men with big muscles, right? And how did they get those big muscles? It's because they're lifting weights all the time. They're lifting weights day after day after day. And eventually their muscles go from little puny muscles like mine to big mounding muscles. Well, that's the same way with the Lord. He tells us to pray to him, to ask him, to seek him, and he will reveal himself to us. And so we need to do that so much that we have big, giant God muscles, and we have such a relationship with him. So next is Theodore Roosevelt was a member of the Rough Riders. He was a real character. And during the Spanish-American War, at the age of 42, he became the youngest president of the United States, and he helped protect the Grand Canyon from development and encouraged the building of the Panama Canal, and he reformed dangerous business practices. And next is types of storms. So go, boo, types of storms. Or go, ah. Type of storm includes blizzards, derechos, flood, hail, hurricane, ice, lightning, thunder, tornado, and tropical. Those are all types of storms. And finally, the Grand Canyon, located in Arizona, is 277 miles long, and it is widest part is 18 miles long, wide, and it's near the Colorado River. And the Colorado River flows through it, and the area around it is surrounded by the Hopi, Navajo, Haskapai, Puate, and the Hualapai Indian tribes. And here we have Hadassah. She's in Catholic campus, and she's so beautiful. And we have Pasha, who's in 2 campuses, and we have Alex, who has been with the Reston campus since he was just an itty-bitty little boy, and now he's grown up and he's old, and he's such a great kid. So as you grow older, you will encounter temptations that seem insurmountable, meaning you cannot possibly get around that temptation. Memorize this verse. I really want you to memorize this verse this year. And remind yourself that God always provides a way to escape temptation. When tempted, repeat this verse in your head and ask God to show you a way to escape. So, really important that you remember how to get out of temptation, and that is asking God, because He will show you a way, because He loves you so much. Okay, next is Plessy versus Ferguson. And you're going to draw a picture here, and basically a man named Homer Plessy in 1892 was in Louisiana, and he paid for a train ticket, and there were two types of cars. One was all poshy and nice and comfy and squishy and all, and the other one was not very nice at all and not very poshy at all. And so he wanted to ride in the one, he paid for the same amount of price, and so he wanted to ride in the nicer car. And they told him that he couldn't because of his skin color. And so he went to the courts about it, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court sided against him. And they said it was okay to have restrooms and water fountains and lobbies of places and even in movie theaters or theaters, things like that. It was okay to have accommodation, in schools especially, accommodations that were separate but equal. So it was okay to do that. And the problem was equal was a big like this. It did not mean equal. It meant separate, and that African Americans and other people of color would have lesser than people who were white. And so it was not a very fair rule at all. And it reminds you a lot of the Dred Scott decision. Remember Dred Scott, where he sued trying to say that that he should be free, and the Supreme Court ruled against him and said that he wasn't even a citizen, and that no African American person was a citizen in the United States, whether they were free or not. And so it's important that even though God tells us that we should obey the laws of the land, and we really should, it's very important, that they're not always biblical. And that we're supposed to draw a picture of African Americans realizing that the Supreme Court had ruled that they would be subjected to lesser accommodations. And so maybe we could have them praying for their enemies, praying for people from last week that were not kind to them. Or maybe we could have them being frustrated or sad or something like that. But it's just important to... Here, it's important to realize that once the slaves, the people who were enslaved, were free, it doesn't mean that everything was okay and everything was fine. They actually had a long way to go before they got to a place where there was a lot of equality. It's still sometimes there's inequality to African American people, and there's still a ways to go. So it's important that we realize that not all Supreme Court rulings are the right rulings, are good rulings that would be godly and that would be biblical. And finally, we have storms. I want you to draw pictures of storms that are like wild storms that you can think of down here. And we have had so much fun this year. I'm so glad you've journeyed with us. We started out way back with Queen Anne's War, and we talked about the difference between the Age of Enlightenment and the First Great Awakening. Do you remember that? The Age of Enlightenment was very focused on men doing well and men being scientific and all of that. And the First Great Awakening was about God and turning ourselves back to God. And we saw how that played out in the Revolutionary War of the United States, where God was the focus in starting the country. And then in the French Revolution, where it didn't go nearly as well, not that a war ever goes well, but it was much more horrific, and how man was the central focus of that battle. And those two philosophies, how they played out with the populace, with the peoples. And then we went on and we talked about the Civil War. We talked about men and women who were great. We talked about the angels of the battlefield and how so many women did so many great things in our history. And we're finally finished with this year. Next year, we're going to start out with the 1900s to now, to today. So I cannot wait to see you next year. I can't wait to do all these fun things with you. And till next year, I'll see you later. Bye-bye, sweeties.